Ambassador Friedman, great to see you, although I always feel like I should only meet with you in Jerusalem, but it's a beautiful day in Tel Aviv. Thank you for talking to All Israel News.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be with you, and I also like to be in Jerusalem. I happen to be today in Tel Aviv. So
doing business, that's a good thing.
These things happen. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Listen, Jerusalem has been an explosion in recent weeks, and there's the violence, but there's also the ripple effects of pretty strong condemnations from the United Arab Emirates, from Jordan, even from Egypt, a little less from Bahrain. Tell us what you think the situation is, and connected to the Abraham Accords, why are we seeing pushback that feels stronger than last year when there was 4,000 rockets and violence and Sheikh Jarrah? Why is this night different from all other nights?
Well, look, religious conflicts are always the most serious conflicts in the Middle East, so everybody wants to avoid a religious conflict. The reality, of course, that there is no religious conflict, and there never has been a religious conflict, and the notion that Al-Aqsa is under attack is just a lie. And it was never under attack. It hasn't been under attack by, certainly not by Israel or the Jewish people in its history, but if you go back to 1929, go back that far, the Hebron massacre. In Hebron, why did it start? Because of a rumor, a narrative that Al-Aqsa was under attack. Wasn't true then, but people died. Anytime Hamas wants to foment unrest, they go for the Al-Aqsa under attack card. Now, the media will show pictures of people throwing stones and smoke and everything. It's a tiny fraction of the time spent by Muslim worshippers during the month of Ramadan at Al-Aqsa. A tiny fraction. I mean, there are all kinds of beautiful pictures of Muslim families having picnics there, having iftars there.
Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people having the freedom of worship.
And there's no nation in the history of the Temple Mount and the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, no nation that has done more to preserve and protect the rights of Muslim worshippers to pray freely at the third holiest site in Islam than the government of Israel. That doesn't sit well with Israel's enemies, doesn't sit well with Hamas, doesn't sit well even with the PA. And so, you know, during the holy month of Ramadan, when people's emotions are strong, you have this narrative. It'll go away because it's not true. Now, why do people care about it? Because nobody wants violence. Nobody wants to see their street, you know, upset. But it's unfortunate because it's all premised upon a complete lie. A complete lie, that Al-Aqsa is under attack by the state of Israel. It's never been the case, and it wasn't the case this past week.
So why have the Emiratis and the Jordanians been much stronger, but particularly the Emiratis, because they're Israel's new peace partners in the Abraham Accords?
Well, I think, their goal is to quiet things down. And in the short run, I think everybody would like to see things quieted down. And in fact, the last time I checked, they were pretty quiet. And I think today's the last Friday in Ramadan, and I would expect that they will continue to de-escalate and go back to normal. So there was a short-term goal to just deprive the extremists of the gasoline to fuel the violence.
In other words, if a peace partner is saying, "Hey, you guys are going too far," at least it wasn't like they were kowtowing to Israel or not paying attention to
I didn't see it. I didn't see it as anything more than trying to be helpful to achieve a short-term goal of de-escalating violence. But the long-term issue is still that that the Muslim world needs to understand, and I hope they come and visit this holy site. They will see. You know, there's about 10 different entrances to the Muslim faithful to enter the Temple Mount. There's only one for non-Muslims, and the non-Muslims have to go through all kinds of security and metal detectors, and there's none of that for the Muslim world. And if you're Jewish or Christian and you enter the Temple Mount, you start to move your lips in prayer, you're asked to leave. So, with all respect to all the complaints, the Muslim world really doesn't have a basis to complain, but they have to see it to believe it. And I hope that over time that comes about.
One last question, Iran. My perception is we're either headed towards a very, very, very bad nuclear deal, or there's no deal and it's just a very, very, very bad situation in which nobody has an answer on how to neutralize the Iran nuclear threat without creating a whole new war, but you can't let them get a bomb. How do you read the situation right now, and how can Christians be praying for peace in a very difficult and delicate situation?
Well, I don't think there ever was a deal with Iran. I think the old deal was one that had far too many flaws and too many holes, and primarily, I've said this before, the fact that you could not inspect the military sites in the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is the most natural place for them to store nuclear weapons. So I don't think it ever was there. At least under the Trump administration, they were broke, right? So if you have an enemy and you can't get them to join the community of nations in peace, let them at least be broke.
You were a bankruptcy lawyer. You want to see them bankrupt if they're not going to change.
I want them to have to choose between bankruptcy and a nuclear weapon. I think that's the only basis upon which they might eschew a nuclear weapon. And we can still do that because we haven't released the funds yet. Once we release those funds, they're not going to use the money to build schools and hospitals, right? They're going to use it to double down on ballistic missiles, to foment terror from Yemen to Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Hamas. These are the last people in the world you want to give money to. Now, how do we solve the problem? We have to stay strong. We've defeated every implacable enemy in our history, and we'll defeat Iran as well. We're much stronger than Iran. We have allies that are stronger than Iran. We can beat them, and before they get a nuclear weapon, but we got to be strong.
Ambassador Friedman, thank you for talking to All Israel News.
My pleasure.
Great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.